What's up? My name is Jono, and today, boys and girls, I'm gonna attempt to create a 30-second pop hit, taking you guys through everything from the writing and the recording right to the production side of things. But first, the whys. Why is this what we're covering today? Because I think there's some great lessons to be learned from how I put the song together, whether that's for musicians and vocalists or obviously songwriters and producers. Why pop specifically? Because I think pop is a great genre to learn from. Everything is exaggerated in pop, and there's no mercy. You gotta get the listener's attention within the first couple of seconds, otherwise they get bored and they change the channel or they skip to the next song, which is part of why I love pop. Let's get into it. So I started by asking myself, what's the feeling or the vibe that I want to get across in the song and in each individual part of the song? And this is crucial because every decision we make in the song, from the writing to the instrumentation to the mixing, it all comes back to what feeling we're trying to get across. So the first thing I do is to look for a tempo or a BPM that works for the feeling I have in my head. I decide 116 is the BPM that works for me. Next, I'm going to start working on the drums, and that's typically how I start songs, especially upbeat songs, because it's the easiest way to test the vibe, get my body moving, and that helps to set the foundation to test what else works for the rest of the song. You rarely hear live drums in pop songs these days. Bruh. So to give me that radio slick pop sound, I'm going to be triggering drum samples with my playing. Since we're going for a typical pop hit, I decided to play a straight drum beat because that's really common in pop songs, also because I can't really play, so that keeps things simple. So just a kick snare with no hats in the verse. Next, the pre-chorus. So there's two ways to do a pre-chorus. One is a higher dynamic pre-chorus that builds one step up from the dynamics of the verse, and the other is to do a low dynamic pre-chorus that sets up the impact of the chorus. So I decide for this song I'm gonna go for a low dynamic pre-chorus. But to make sure the pre-chorus doesn't sound too low dynamic, I add in some snaps on the 2s and the 4s. For the chorus, I go back to a straight beat, but with a hi-hat this time, so there's a nice feeling of lift there. Now, I know I'm going to be adding in a lot of additional elements in the chorus that are pretty bright to give that feeling of excitement, so I want to make sure my kick cuts through the mix really well. So to do that, I layer my kick with another kick sample, using only the high end from that sample, which sounds like the beater of a kick. Imagining all the other instrumentation in the chorus, I feel like my snare isn't quite cutting it, so I swap out my snare sound with a different snare sound that's a little heavier and a little bit brighter. But I still feel like the snare could use a little bit more energy, so I record some claps to double all the snares in the chorus. Drums are sounding much better now, but I still feel like I could use a little bit more energy and movement. So I find myself a nice bright clap sample, and I paste it on every 4 of every bar. That is the second snare of every bar. And to give the song a nice disco throwback vibe in the chorus, I paste a on every alternate bar. And for the final bit of lift in the second half of the chorus, I add in a shaker. Next, to give myself some chords, also because that'll stir ideas for my vocal melody and lyrics, or top line as the pros call it, I go for guitars. And since I'm going for an upbeat vibe, I think I'll try some funk strumming in the chorus, and after messing around for a while, I end up with this. Since I'm trying to throw this song together really quickly, I wonder if the exact same guitar I just recorded for the chorus will work in the verse. So I paste it there and it works pretty well. For the low dynamic feeling we're going for in the pre-chorus, I decide to give the constant strumming a break, and instead what I do is just a clean strum on the 1 of each bar, and guitars are done. For the bass, I'm going to try recording the chorus first. Pretty funky bass line with some well-placed staccato notes, some lines in between thrown in for variation. The chords of the verse are exactly the same as the chorus, so I'm going to roughly echo what I've played in the chorus, but simplify. For the feeling that we're going for in the pre-chorus, I feel like the bass isn't really necessary, so I'm just going to sit this one out. Pro tip! In the past, what I used to do is I'd go all out with my instrumentation, with the music, and then finally at the end I'd get to vocals, and after I try out all my harmonies and my different layers, then the mix starts sounding really congested, like there's too many things happening, and I end up pulling instrumentation out of the mix. So instead what I do now is I skip straight ahead to vocals sooner, try out all the different layers, the different harmonies I want to do. That gives me a better indication of what is still missing in the music or what I should add to complete the song. With that in mind, I'm going to skip straight ahead to vocals. So when I write my vocals, I'm always writing with the next part that's coming in mind, the pre-chorus, the chorus. Starting with my verse, I'm going to try and come up with a melody that's pretty low so that it leaves me room to climb in the pre-chorus. And I'm going to try and come up with a melody line that climbs a little bit in the pre-chorus, but not too much, so I still have room to climb in the chorus. For the chorus, I'm going for the highest range so far in the rest of the song so that you feel a natural sense of lift, but not too far out of my range so it feels like I'm pushing while I'm not comfortable. So now I've got what I think is a pretty solid top line. Next, I'm going to look at what I need to do to make the vocals sound bigger and fuller. The verse is already good because I don't want it to sound like there's too much happening right at the start of the song. The pre-chorus is the first area I'm going to focus on. So I'm going to take the exact same main melody that I sang and double it. That is, sing it another 2 times, bend them left and right. So that sounds better, but the feeling I'm going for in the pre-chorus is a slightly dreamy, lush kind of soundscape. So I think what will give me that feeling is some harmonies. So first I try a low harmony because I don't want to climb too much in the pre, but it sounds a little bit too low dynamic. I want it to sound like it's lifted a bit more from the verse. So let me try adding in another harmony that's higher than the main melody. Vocals in the pre-chorus sounds full, but it still sounds like I've got a lot of room to climb in the chorus. The chorus is the biggest part of the song, the highest point of elevation. So I'm gonna pull out all the stops. So the first thing I do is take my main vocals and double them again. Next, for my range specifically, it feels like the chorus isn't really high enough. Like it could use a little bit more lift. But unlike the pre-chorus, I'm going for a really upbeat, vibrant feeling here. So I don't want to overdo it with the harmonies to give me that lift. So instead what I do is I take the same chorus melody and I sing it 1 octave up. Now if that sounds a little bit crazy for you as a vocalist, or if you're a mixing engineer and you didn't receive a higher octave vocal track like this, what you can do is you can take the main vocal melody track and you can pitch it up 1 octave, and it'll give you a similar feeling of lift that this higher octave vocal will give me in the chorus. Lastly, to make sure my vocals sound big and fat, I am going to add some harmonies. So I'm going to try a lower harmony first. There's not much movement in the harmony. It isn't really following the main melody in the traditional way people do harmonies, which I find sometimes gives the harmony a slightly mechanical vibe, or it sometimes gives it a slightly cheesy country western vibe. Country road. Which doesn't work for this song because I'm going for a typical slick modern pop hit. For further lift in the chorus, I add in a higher harmony with a similar vibe of very little movement happening in the harmony notes. Finally, with the rest of the instrumentation I'm going to put in the chorus in mind, I mixed the levels of the harmonies so they're just barely going to be audible, and I'm happy with my vocals. Last instrument, keys. I feel like most of the heavy lifting in the song is already done, so I don't think it needs too much. I'm pretty happy with what we have in the verse, so I'm going to start with the pre. Also, because introducing keys for the first time in the pre-chorus gives me another layer of elevation from the verse. So I'm going to try looking for a simple pad sound that's not too bright and not too big, so it leaves room for elevation in the chorus. Finally, for the chorus, this is the last layer of elevation I'm going to be giving the song. So I want something that's big, that's bright, that's got lots of bite. After looking through a couple of sounds, I settle on this, and I play a rhythm that kind of mirrors what the bass and the guitar are doing. Now I think the instrumentation of the song is good. For the icing on the cake, I'm gonna add in some risers and downlifters. Mostly subtle stuff just to give the listener the subliminal feeling like the next part is coming, and also to create some impact. For my chorus drums, I didn't use a cymbal because I'm not actually using live drums. So instead of a cymbal, I'm going to use a sample to create some high-end impact in the chorus. Mix a little bit of the levels and the song is done. So here's a super short snapshot of a pop hit. Just a 4-bar verse, a 4-bar pre-chorus, and a 4-bar chorus. Check it out.
This is the verse. Skip the intro, and now straight into the pre-chorus we'll go. This is just a build-up, gonna take it down before I take you to the chorus. I don't wanna bore us, so I'll stop right now.
Pretty fun stuff, right? If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe. In future videos, I'm going to be breaking down in detail what are the lessons we can learn from this simple short song. If you'd like to contribute to this, or if you'd like to be a sponsor, check out the links below. I'm Jono, and I'll see you guys next week.